Hello, my friends. Welcome to another 10-minute Rise Up with Dragon. As a reminder, it is the goal of this podcast to remove the blindfolds of your mind so that you can gain access to higher levels of consciousness and tap into your true great potential. We do this how? We do this with our podcast, our weekly blog called The Dragon's Lair, one from the vault, and our upcoming online courses and books. Welcome, my friends, to another Rise Up with Dragon.
Great morning, world! Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon!
And as a quick reminder, today's episode, which we're calling Inconsistency, is sponsored as always by Karma Mind.
Get into the float state with Calm Mind meditations and gear.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another 10-minute Rise Up with Dragon. And this is called Inconsistency. A couple of quick draft thoughts, THOTS, just to keep you updated. I'm using all of these skills that I've used to build everything in my life right now to become a DJ of electronic music. I bought all the stuff and my skills are getting nasty. I might even have my first actual gig where I'm going to play in front of a big crowd, which is a visual that I've had for some time. Our new podcast with my buddy Mark Savant, NFTs Made Simple, is rising the charts and just becoming super popular. You know, like over 95% of the world has not yet engaged in NFTs and crypto. As a matter of fact, I just bought my first NFT through VFriends with Gary V in his new thing called Book Games. Pretty cool. Not recommending any of you do it, but our podcast is serving the 95% that's afraid and doesn't understand anything about this new world. So if that's you, go check out our podcast, NFTs Made Simple. So let's jump into this. This is my rise up today. Called inconsistency. And in my opinion, consistency is just one of the few common traits that everybody that sits at the table on the top of the mountain carries. So something to take note of. So the question is what about you? Are you inconsistent or are you in consistency, which means in the process of being consistent? It's interesting because usually when we look at the words inconsistency, we get this idea that it means that we're not doing anything. I look at it differently. I say I'm in consistency. That means that I'm in a season of consistency, which means I'm moving forward. I love that. So if I were to run a diagnostic on your results, right, and look at your action steps and your consistency with them, what would your rating be? So if we looked at it on a scale of 1 to 10, take a self-assessment of yourself. A scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest degree of consistency, regardless of whether or not you're good at what you're doing. I'm just talking about doing it all the time with consistency. What is your algorithm? If I was to look at your algorithm and predict when you're going to do things, right? How would you score your consistency? So this is a very, very crucial thing to become aware of. And the reason why is because if you have goals in life, it's directly correlated with that, right? If you find yourself right now saying, I'm not very consistent, then you need to make the connection that means that you're not leveraging these goals that you have in your life. Why? So inconsistency meaning not doing things, not inconsistency. Being inconsistent damages the integrity of your goals. Think about that for a second. Inconsistency, not being consistent, damages the integrity of your goals. What is the integrity of your goal setting and goal getting mechanisms? I referred to it the other day as your goal machine. So what this means is that every time that you set a new goal, and I hope this is not you, every time you set a new goal, there's an inner dialogue. There's an inner dialogue going on where your brain accesses, listen to this, your brain accesses the probability. It evaluates, when you set a goal, it evaluates the probability of you achieving the goal based on your commitment to the action steps that lead to it. So you look in the mirror and you say, today's a great day and I'm going to go do this. Your brain automatically assesses that and makes a calculation, and it says, I don't think so. Or, yeah, of course he's going to do it. So that's where it gets sticky when you don't follow through with things. So it doesn't focus on the acquisition of the goal. It's important to know about the value of the goal, but it focuses on the probability of it. And then if the probability is very low, you automatically start setting up your escape route. So let me give you an example. You set a goal perhaps to lose weight, and you place a high value and urgency to that projected goal, which would be a very good idea to do. You create motivation based on the visual of that goal, and you start eating right and things like that and exercising to support this value that you placed on the goal. Once your motivation wanes, though, and we all know that things like believing yourself, timing, and motivation can't have anything to do with achieving goals, getting goals. You can set goals based on them, but not get goals, because if they go away or they wane, then you're screwed, right? And how many days a month are you motivated, and is the timing right? And do you believe in yourself? So think about that. Once your motivation wanes and your brain, as a result of that waning, your brain does two things. It brings to light what it knows you typically do based on past experiences. Your brain automatically, that's assessing the probability of it. So you have a tendency, here's your potential story in your past. You have a tendency to start strong and then fizzle out. So at that moment, when it assesses the probability, right after you made that big command of what's going to happen, doubt creeps in, and your fear of failure coupled with your doubt, and you reach into your big bag of bullshit. Everybody's going around with this bag. You can't see it, but you're carrying it. It's called your big bag of bullshit. And all you have to do is reach in and pull out a handy dandy, get out of potential failure or overwhelm pass, which in other words, we call that excuses, right? So the second thing that your brain does, right? Secondly, your brain makes a quick assessment of your actions and consistency. If it sees a lack of commitment and consistency, it proceeds with the excuse and plan for you to run that typical ineffective program. We talk a lot about being below the line in the drama triangle. If your brain assesses a lack of commitment and consistency, you'll start to plan your exit, and you'll start to defend your position. It's not the right time and all of that stuff. However, this time, so this is going to happen no matter what. You're wired like this. However, you this time want to break through, right? And you have this plan to actually acknowledge this stuff, but move forward anyway. So how can you override the programmed exit plan that we're talking about? So we got to dig deep in that moment. You got to dig real deep. And you, first of all, acknowledge that this is going to happen. Dig deep, and you're going to have to exercise some grit, resilience, and perseverance, and do the work anyway. So you got to have a reason to do it anyway. So we do stuff with consistency, regardless of how we feel, and display a different structure and behavior to the brain and the universe that make them say, wait a second, this is new. So think about that. When your brain is making an assessment of a low probability, it also means that God and the universe are assessing your typical story and behavior. So what you're going to do, because you desire a breakthrough, is you're going to exhibit to your brain. So you have to actually convince your brain and the universe and God that this time something new is going on. You need the universe to say, wait a second, this is new. And then they start observing and they go, let's see what happens, your brain included, before we give up. So you go through this passage of pain, and that's the passage of pain. The passage of pain is when you're going after something when it's inconvenient. It's at its highest inconvenience, meaning you don't believe in it, it's hard, and it just doesn't have a return on investment. It's coupled with letdowns and failures, and it just doesn't make sense why you would go. The only reason you're going is because you've decided to go no matter what. So you go through this passage of pain until you get your first win. And that first win and the expectations of it have to be realistic. But when you get your first win, it validates the effort that you're making, and then you build on that. That is the secret to success, nothing else. So in effect, you have a lot more control over your outcome than you think if you're willing, right? If you're willing to do the work on the days that you don't believe in yourself, when the timing is off and you're not motivated, right? Those perceptions of that your brain is running and are an old program that doesn't any longer, it no longer applies to this breakthrough that you want. So recognize that those things are going to happen. You're a fool to think that you're not going to go through that process. You're wired like that. You're programmed right like that. So once you grasp this concept, I just say happy goal crushing to all of you. I love and appreciate you. Everybody have an amazing day.